Welcome to How to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Let's explain. Droll is a problem.
Chapter 1.
Alrighty then. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Droll, and it's gonna be a hot take, but I'm gonna list why I think it's a problem. First of all, I'm going to talk about the advantages of Droll and the argument for Droll being in the game, and then I'll talk about the disadvantages, and then finally, I will conclude with speaking about all my thoughts in the conclusion. With that being said, let's get on with the rest of the video.
Chapter 2.
Okay, and now I'm going to start with the argument for Droll to stay in Yu-Gi-Oh! So let us begin. First of all, with Droll in the game, as most people would say, as most players would say, the meta is kept in check. Like combo decks are kept in check. They cannot extend for days. And essentially, it really just stops all manners of just nonsense that is happening to the game.
Keep it simple.
And it is also said that you can play around Droll to some degree as well, which brings about high level and skillful gameplay, as most would say, it's an initiation for you as a player becoming a better player, especially for the higher competitive circuit. Knowing that Droll exists, accounting for it in deck building, and understanding that you don't need to just go balls to the wall when it comes to extension for days.
Negative card relationships.
So there's loads of avenues and loads of things definitely that Droll adds into the game just simply from existing. Extension isn't just there for the sake of being there. You're not going to just play balls to the wall. You're going to ensure your plays are consistent, and you'll always aim for consistency, and consistency. And really, that's all I've got to say. Those are the major points going for Droll when we are talking about it, and that's all I've got to say. And now I'll go to the next point where I'll talk about the negatives and why I would feel Droll needs to go.
Chapter 3.
Okay, and now I'm going to talk about the negatives and why I feel Droll should get limited or banned. First of all, as I speak about this point, let's now, with the argument I have against Droll, look at the latest ban list in TCG. We have been banning floodgates. And the hand trap floodgate that we've had, which is Shifter, has now been put to 1. And I would say that Droll also needs to go to 1. Now, again, I know this is a hot take here, but my take here is this. Since Droll's inclusion into the game, whenever this card is in the game, majority of the community usually call the format bad. Whether we like to admit it or not, and yes, the points that I have mentioned on the good points are valid, but it needs to be stated here, and I need to say this: if majority of the community, right, and whenever a format is going awry, they always mention a Droll is always cited as an indicator of a bad format. That to me is a sign that this card has not been a good card even back when it was first released.
Facts.
Another reason why Droll wasn't as bad on its early release was decks did not search as much as they do right now. Right now, searching is a basic principle for decks, and basic plays they do essentially involve searching. Look at, for example, a deck like Mitsurugi that has come out this year. The basic things it does as a pure deck is searching. Yes, it searches a lot. Does it make a crazy board? Absolutely no. Pure Mitsurugi just has a ritual monster there on the board. Look at Vanadium. Again, in the context of the TCG, all the generic negate extra deck monsters are banned right now, right? So Vanadium really isn't doing anything. And they essentially needed to search a lot given how the deck plays because it just searches to do basic plays. And you find like a lot of decks now, Konami, whether intentionally or not, has been making a lot of decks that search a lot and to do a basic play. Whether it is, the Ryuge that has come out last year, right? That again, we have Ragnarok again that has come out. Loads of archetypes recently just have just random searching just there. Even Sinful Spoil, Snake Eyes does that. Ryziel is not immune to this as they have loads of cards that search. Look at Ryziel. Look at that deck, man. It searches to the high heavens. So let's not kid ourselves. Searching is something that has been made more common with recent archetypes. And since it is a much common feature, in my eyes and in my opinion, Droll should get limited, right? We live in a world, as I would say, where negates are hard to come by. Generic negates are banned. Engine negates are still there with the Fiendsmith deck, obviously, and the Azamina package or Sinful Spoil package. But again, these are entire deck cores, and I wouldn't even call them engines at that. So you'll be playing just a completely different deck to play this deck. The point being is that if we can have a floodgate sort of a card like Shifter to 1, then in my eyes, we should definitely have Droll and Lockbird to 1. Again, this is my hot take, but my overall conclusion to this is that Droll definitely is a problem and it needs to be addressed, and it does need to get limited in the near future to 1 at least. Well, that's it. Let's head on to the conclusion.
Final chapter.
And here we are at the conclusion. So, how do I want to conclude this? I know my point doesn't sound really good. And many would say that, you're being a hater right now. We need Droll. Your take is completely wrong, completely stupid, and just Droll needs to be in the game. So I want to offer a counterpoint for skillful gameplay. Let's talk about where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is right now. To get to peak Yu-Gi-Oh!, here's in my opinion, what we need. What we need is to get rid of generic Omni Negates, which we did. Get rid of Floodgates, which we have been doing. Get rid of Hand Trap Floodgates, which we have. We are one step closer to entering that. And in my eyes, and the way I see Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that games should be back and forth. If there should be any kind of interaction from a hand trap, it should be a hand trap which you should be rewarded for playing against it. The best example is Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom, is it a strong card? Yes, absolutely. But if you know your chain links, you can beat it. And chain linking is a high level skill that you learn as you get better at Yu-Gi-Oh! Same with other hand traps that exist in the game right now. As you get better and better in playing the game, you can just naturally play against them and win that exchange. The problem with Droll and Lockbird is that if more decks are now created that search more, then even if you play around it, you still end up losing to it. And you straight up end up just not being able to play at all. The big example is, for example, Sword Soul Ryuge, for example. Sword Soul, now Konami, to combat this, obviously to have Dex player or Droll, has put a quick play, as Droll and Lockbird only activates in the doesn't activate in the draw phase, but in every other phase. So it activates there. So if you have a quick play, in theory, you should be able to search in the draw phase, right? And then avoiding the issues of draw. But here comes the problem. Sword Soul Ryuga has that issue of hit by draw and they don't do anything. And yes, they have a quick play, which in theory would help them avoid draw. But guess what? They need more than one search. Just because they could search one time in the draw phase doesn't mean anything. They'll still end up losing to Droll anyway. And most archetypes are built in this way. Even Sinful Spoils, which is completely strong. Again, Sinful Spoils, one of the reasons why a lot of meta archetypes have been dominating the competitive scene is because they had generic Omni Negates to back things up. Right? They had a backup plan. So even if their searches were stopped, which 90% of the times they were, because Droll was definitely sided in, and players were drawing Droll just like that, you had a backup plan. But now let's look at a post-negate world where negates are non-existent. Droll is now a very powerful card. I would say even worse than Nibiru. At least Nibiru, you can play around it, right? Every other hand trap on this that we have in the game right now, you can play around it, except for Droll and Lancia to some degree. Lancia is something else that will definitely get stronger over time. Point being is that for you to play around Droll, you have to have the perfect hand, right? The perfect set of hand, the perfect scenario, the perfect way. And the chances of you having a perfect hand all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are 1 in a million. Like, those odds are so against you that you might as well just play the lottery at that point. It is near enough impossible. And with the way Konami is making archetypes right now, is it really fair for one hand trap to hit majority of 90% of the decks in the game simply for just doing a basic play? Your argument you could say before is like, yeah, they would go and make an unhealthy board. And I answer back to you, what unhealthy board are they making? What negates are they putting out on the board? Are you really afraid of a detonator with Ryziel? Come on now. You've got hand traps that you can deal. You've got hand traps you can deal with it. We've got Gordian Slicer coming out in Alliance Insight, a way to break that board. There's just many ways to going second. Stuff is now available. Combo is in a very, very tough spot right now. And that's not to say that I want Combo to get stronger or get better, but the point is I'm trying to lay out the position where Combo is right now, and it's not in a good spot. Okay, it's in a very bad spot. Like, Droll is just absolutely disgusting, as it just stops the deck completely from functioning. And it essentially becomes a turn skip. The amount of times that Droll has, turn skipped, a player is astounding. So, yeah, that to me is part of the reason why I think Droll should definitely go. It is a turn skip hand trap. Again, there are clearly warning signs we've had as a community as we speak about this card. Why is it whenever we talk about Droll, majority of the player base says that the format is bad? Again, there are warning signs. There's a lot of things there. Yes, there's justification for higher level play, but here's the thing. Again, to outplay Droll, you have to have a perfect hand, a perfect scenario. That is not going to happen all the time. Other hand traps do not punish you for playing the game, for playing your deck correctly. You can outplay Ash Blossom, Imperm, and all other hand traps, there are ways to outplay them. And yes, you could use those same ways of playing Ash Blossom to play Droll and Lockbird. And that argument would be true before 2025 or 2015. You could use those arguments and say that, yes, I can play around Droll and Lockbird because decks did not search a lot back then. But the same argument can't be used now in 2025. 10 years ago, you could definitely use the argument that you can play around Droll. Now it's not the case. Every single viable deck right now, even bad decks, search a lot as a basic play. To justify and say that Droll is a healthy card right now, absolutely not. The best deck right now in the game searches a lot. The worst deck in the game searches a lot. Every deck in the game now searches a lot. So really, right, Droll hits every deck, not just one. And that's all I've got to say, and in this video, and definitely something that we need to talk about, and something that needs to, hopefully Konami will do something about it and put it to one in a future ban list. And that's all I've got to say. So tune in next time as I'll talk about more things on this channel. Hope to see you soon.
We come to the end of this video. So, as I like to say, you are one step closer to becoming a Yu-Gi-Oh! Master. My fate, right, is in your hands.